Hello all and welcome, and I'm the MGTOW philosopher, and in this video I would like to discuss Matt Forney, the fellow who wrote the article I commented on in my previous video, which was essentially a MGTOW hating article. And this article was written by one of his detractors, one of his many detractors, who had some very interesting things to say about Matt Forney. And I thought it would be interesting to find out about this guy because he uses his public persona to advance himself and his writing, and I guess to make money somehow. So let's see what he has to say about Matt Forney. Matt Forney is a douchebag. Okay. His new site, broswagger.com. He's a bro and he swaggers. I see. We don't need to read this article, this first paragraph. He's just talking about where he's going slightly off topic. So who exactly is Matt Forney? Matt is an author. Yes, he has actually written books. Journalist. You could call him a journalist if you go by today's very loose standards like CNN and those crappy places who post all that fake news and are essentially nothing more than propaganda outlets. So, sure, he's a journalist. Okay. Blogger. Oh, that's some claim to fame there. An entrepreneur. Entrepreneur at what? Blogging and authoring. I see. Originally from Syracuse. Real swag uptown place that is. New York. He's also a proud member of the Manosphere elite, whatever that means. Or are they still red pill bloggers, or have all Manospherians converted to neo-masculinity? Blah. I have no idea what they officially label themselves as anymore. Thanks, Roosh, for making things so confusing. His new site, Bro Swagger. What a name. What a name. Oh, there he is. Isn't he just handsome? Wow. Look at that smooth bald head and that manly goatee, and those glasses are just, wow. Isn't he beautiful? Oh, my God. And this is the guy you should take advice from. Yes, indeed. In case you were wondering what Matt Forney looks like, wonder no more, as his pic of him is included below. Svelte. Wow. In the event a female pukes on you about viewing this pic of Matt Forney, simpleguyskills.com will not be responsible for any dry cleaning expenses that may occur. I see. Thank you. Now that you've had a chance to see what Forney looks like, let's take a closer look at some of his writing. Something that became rather clear and obvious to me right away was his utter hatred of women. So he hates women, but he talks like a feminist and a communist. Forney is constantly complaining about women, as has written some real gems over the years. Some examples: 5 reasons why you should not date Indian girls. 5 reasons why girls with tattoos and piercings are broken. How to beat your girlfriend and wife and get away with it. Oh, that's a winner. He's a winner. Oy vey. Forney appears to thrive on attention and loves to write clickbait articles. When Forney isn't writing shocker articles about women complaining about feminism, he blasts fat people and appears to be part of the fat-shaming posse. Fat-shaming? Holy shit. I don't usually say this as a man, but has he looked in a mirror? I mean, yikes. I might say it's okay to shame fat women and all that, but I wouldn't go out and form a posse or anything. And by the way, he's pretty rotund. Is it okay to call him fat? I mean, will YouTube essentially ban me for speaking the truth? I mean, fat is just, everything's open to interpretation, right? Everything is negative philosophy. Everything's open to interpretation. He could be fat. He could be thin, depending on your point of view. Well, from my point of view, he's fat. Okay, so he's fat, and he's essentially shaming other people for being fat. Now, of course, that would be okay if he was rich and wealthy. Let's take a look. Well, with that faded gray T-shirt and that very middle-income level jacket he's wearing, that he's rolling in the dough, isn't he now? Yeah. So he can afford to call women fat and call people out for being fat, even though he's fat. And he might not be packing as many Benjamins in the wallet as he'd like to be. So, I don't know. Is it okay for him to call people out on being fat when he isn't himself a wealthy guy and dresses like someone who got their clothes from the Salvation Army? I don't know. Proof of this indicated here and here. I'll post a link to this original article so you can check out some of the additional links on here yourself. He even went as far as to write a book called Big Lovin', which is a guide that shows how to pick up, seduce, and bang overweight and obese women. Is that really that difficult? I mean, they got to be the thirstiest women on earth. I mean, big fat women, if you want to sleep with them, I wouldn't think it's very difficult. I don't think you need a book. Matt was sharp, though, and indicated that this was a satirical book in order to avoid any confusion. I see. It's not a real-life book. You know what Matt strikes me as? He strikes me as a poser. He strikes me as somebody who essentially gets big fat women and sleeps with them because only hot chicks that would sleep with him, well, they would only sleep with him if he had money, and he clearly has no money. So my guess is he's sleeping with big, fat, ugly chicks, but he wants to portray himself as something that he is not. So he bashes MGTOW and acts like some kind of PUA dude, extreme, extraordinaire, elite member of the manosphere when he is anything but. And, of course, at first glance, it would be easy for one to assume it was non-fictional account of his love life. It would be very easy to assume that. I'm assuming that because it's very assumable. And probably the case. Anyhow, if you thought Matt's fat shaming was strange, yes, I did. His MGTOW obsession is even more bizarre. Yeah, he really hates MGTOW. Forney, because it's easy to hate, because it's very easy to lash out. They're probably the only people on the planet that are misunderstood enough that he could safely get away with lashing out at them and then feel better about himself in turn, because he's been mocked and ridiculed so much in his life. That's my guess, that he wants to have somebody that he can lash out and attack as well, and that's a safe group to do so. It's even more bizarre. Fournier has a very simplistic mind. He has a very simplistic mind. Really, I hadn't gathered that from his brilliant writing. And he claims MGTOW are basement-dwelling virgins. Could that be him talking about himself in his earlier life, perhaps, or how he's made to feel? Or perhaps he's been called someone who looks like and acts like and seems like a basement-dwelling virgin. So now he is essentially projecting his own feelings of self-loathing. Perhaps he's projecting the same kind of comments he has gotten onto other people. Essentially, the abused becomes the abuser. MGTOW are basement-dwelling virgins who jack off to porn all day while eating Cheetos. Well, let's see what he has to say. Oh, we have a video here. Lovely. Let's see what Matt has to say about MGTOW.
Hey there, kids. Matt Forney here from mattforney.com, and this is 30 videos in 30 days. Spider F58X asked me what my opinion is on MGTOW, men going their own way.
You don't mean MIGTOW? Oh, that's right. That little joke only works in print. Okay.
Or MGTOW, as some people call it. What do I think?
Isn't he beautiful? Doesn't he look even better in video than he did in that picture? I mean, wow.
If men going their own way? Well, I think it would be a good idea.
Well, that's what we're doing. So what's your problem?
Now, remember when Gandhi used that quote in relation to Western civilization, he was implying that Western civilization didn't exist. It was nothing but savagery. It was nothing but barbarism and savagery. And I say that men going their own way doesn't really exist anymore. Well, now, before...
It doesn't? Huh. Well, geez, let me think here. Now, I bang chicks when I feel like it, but I don't live with them. I don't marry them. I don't give them my resources. And so, isn't that MGTOW? Well, it seems to exist, at least in my case. For you to say it doesn't exist, well, that's a total fabrication. You are 100% wrong. What do you have to say to that?
Before I get launched to the meat of this argument, I'm not...
You don't know how to make arguments. I read your prior article. All it was critical theory. All you did was made criticisms, and you didn't give arguments. Although, in your mind, you might think you did give arguments, but you did not.
Talking about everyone who calls himself MGTOW.
Wait. You just said MTGOW. MGTOW doesn't exist. So if it doesn't exist, who are you talking about? You were basically casting everyone with the same brush, and then you're saying, oh, but I'm not talking about all of them. But you're talking about all the people that claim to be MGTOW, but it doesn't exist anymore. You already made them one entire group. So now you can't start partitioning them up because you said that doesn't exist to begin with. You've already painted them with an absolute brush, and you already have basically let us know that you're talking about all of them.
I identify with a lot of the principles, the original principles of men going their own way myself. In fact, a couple of the progenitors of men going their own way, such as Rob Fetters and Zed, were huge influences on my thinking back in the day. Fetters' blog, No Ma'am, is, as far as I'm concerned, even though he hasn't updated in 2 years, it's still one of the best resources out there for, like, quote-unquote red pill thinking, or whatever you want to call it. There's a link to it in the description.
You don't talk like somebody red-pilled, though. Your TradCon views that you say are the most natural and legitimate are basically essentially overshadowed by your feminist and communistic views of things in your article. How do you explain that?
So I don't dismiss everyone who considers himself a man going their own way, or a man going his own way, or whatever. I'm friends with Bernard Chapin, etc. So basically, if what I'm talking about in this video doesn't describe you, then I'm not talking about you.
You are talking about me. What are you talking about? Oh, I see. You have your own definition of what MGTOW is, and it's totally different than what mine is. Mine is the actual definition, and you have some kind of definition that's completely 100%, 180-degree turn different from what I'm talking about. Oh, I see. Continue, please.
My main truck with men going their own way is not as it was originally conceived. If men going their own way still reflected anything of its creator's intention, I would buy as such. But in the year...
Okay, so what was the creator's intention? So if MGTOW was, you'd be happy with it, it reflected the creator's intention. Tell us what the creator's intention was, and tell us where MGTOW has now gone wrong and veered away from the intention and how it's different.
2015, men going their own way is associated with basement-dwelling, virgin, neckbeard to eat Cheetos all day and whine about how they can't get a date.
Okay, now you're saying associated with. Is it associated with, or is that what it is? Now, you got to be very clear here. What something is associated with is not what it actually is, not necessarily. So you need to make a delineation between the two. Are you talking about the association or what it actually is? Be very clear if you can.
Yeah, that sounds dismissive, but it's the fucking truth.
Wait. So it's okay. So now that's not what it's associated with. That's the fucking truth, right? Well, I don't live in my mother's basement. I've never lived in an actual basement. Too much fucking mold and moisture. And I'm not a virgin, and I don't eat Cheetos. So I don't know what the hell you're talking about. You look like, by the way, you eat a lot of Cheetos, and you just might live in mommy's basement. So, could you be projecting a little bit more?
And the reason it's the truth is because the MGTOW label has been hijacked by a bunch of idiots on YouTube who have...
idiots who have gotten more views and more attention than you have. So they must be idiots, of course, because the brilliant people out there who have subscribed to all these people are ignoring you. And, of course, you're a brilliant genius, and they should be paying attention to you. So, of course, you need to invalidate them by attacking them and saying that they hijacked your lovely movement. I see. Please continue, brilliant genius.
Have no knowledge of history, sexuality, philosophy, or anything.
Oh, and you do. You're a brilliant philosopher, and you understand history perfectly, even though you espouse communism and socialist ideas, and you're secretly a closet feminist. I see. Continue.
Aside from that, which they glean from reading blogs.
Aren't you a blog writer? So they're reading your blog. They're gleaming from you. They're stealing from you. I said, you're making assumptions, by the way. Okay.
Call them out by something like their names, like Barbarossa would be the #1 example, or as
I bet you hate him. He's real popular, and you're not.
Bernard Chapin calls him Cockroacha, because the guy is a cult leader who is, it sounds...
Don't you wish you were a cult leader? Wouldn't you like to be a cult leader? I mean, really. With that shiny bald head of yours, you put on a robe. You could be a good cult leader, really. I can imagine that. Wouldn't you like to be that cult leader? It's a shame you just haven't been able to make that transition yet. It's a shame you haven't gotten the followers to do it.
It sounds dramatic, but
yeah, it sounds like hyperbole to me. It sounds like bullshit.
The guy is seducing vulnerable young men down this path of resenting women.
Are you seducing vulnerable young men? Would you like to be seducing vulnerable young men, Matt? Is that what you want? Is that what you're really looking for? Is he stealing your young men, Matt?
And refusing to acknowledge that, and claiming that feminism and women are irredeemably evil, or whatever it is he does, and that the only way forward is to the only way to go your own way is to listen to what this jerk is saying, which. And it's hilarious because none of Barbarossa's followers, none of these other YouTube guys like Stardust, whoever, or that other guy who's so incompetent he can't record videos with his own voice. He has to use a text-to-speech program like Stephen Hawking. None of these guys ever considered.
He's just jealous. He's just envious. Listen to him. He's burning up with envy because he can't get the followers they can. Nobody wants to follow this guy.
Contradiction of calling themselves men going their own way, yet hanging off the words of this one jerk who appointed himself Pope of the movement, as it were.
Wow, but you just sound so brilliant. You'd like to be the Pope, wouldn't you?
Now, the original principles of men going their own way, as laid out in the MGTOW manifesto, which
Who wrote this manifesto? Please tell us.
was drafted about a decade ago, are one that I agree with. There's a link to it in the description, but the original Men Going Their Own Way manifesto simply said the goal of MGTOW, the goals of MGTOW are just three. Number one, instill masculinity in men. Number two, instill femininity in women. Number three, work towards limited government. Now,
Okay, so you believe that's what MGTOW ought to be. But how would it be men going their own way then? Genius. How would men be going their own way then? But you're not going your own way. That doesn't fit any of the description. That's not men going their own way. What are you talking about?
you know something about that manifesto? It doesn't mention a marriage strike. It doesn't mention avoiding women. It doesn't mention hating women. It doesn't mention going the rest of your life as a fat-addled oddball living in his mom's basement.
Don't you fit that description except for the basement part, which may or may not be the case. We don't know.
Okay. The only... there's a link to... a few years ago, I was talking to Rob, and he gave me his history of men going their own way as he interpreted it, since he was one of the more or less the founders. There's a link to it in the description below. Men going their own way was originally conceived as a response to the impotence of the men's rights movement, or the men's movement, or whatever you want to call it, in the early aughts. It was stifled by political correctness and constant infighting. So the joke was that it was like despite this being a supposed political movement, it was like every man was going his own way. That's where it came from. I probably, if I'm getting facts right, feel free to correct me in the comments. But again, this is all backed up through the links in the description, so I think I'm on pretty solid footing. And again,
Oh, so because the people who supposedly created the movement had a different idea in mind for men going their own way, meaning that men really wouldn't go their own way. Yeah, that wasn't so we would just essentially be for smaller government and trying to instill femininity in women and masculinity in men. What the hell is it called men going their own way for? What? It's in no way men going their own way.
and I've been around in the manosphere, or whatever you want to call it, before it even existed.
You're like, what, 25 when this was made? What are you talking about? You're a little kid. You're a little kid.
I've been around here for a lot longer than these mouthy kids calling themselves MGTOW.
Dude, you're like 25. What are you talking about, mouthy kids? You are a kid.
I'm talking about how they won't be they won't be no pussy worshippers. So I think I know what I'm talking about.
I don't think you do.
But anyway, I have no truck with men going their own way as it was originally conceived.
You sure seem to, because as it was originally conceived, because it wasn't originally conceived to have men going their own way. You just said it wasn't about leaving marriage behind, or leaving women behind, or leaving relationships behind, or stopping women from taking your resources. It's not even men. That's no way men going their own way. I'm sure you're just fine with that because you're a feminist. Really, you are a cultural Marxist, buddy.
The problem is that these principles, these ideas, have been lost.
Good. They sucked. Your ideas suck.
They've been completely forgotten.
Good.
And the reason they do so is because of the influence of this jerk Barbarossa.
Blame. Yeah. You want to blame somebody instead of taking responsibility for that fact that they were bad ideas to begin with. They were bad ideas. They were bad ideas. They disappeared because they were bad ideas, not because somebody, one person. And by the way, he pointed out probably that there were bad ideas. Okay.
He doesn't represent all of men going their own way, but
but you are not a man going your own way. You said you're not MGTOW. So why do you care? Shut up.
Problem is, for people who are not associated with it, him and his followers have become men going their own way for the general population.
Right, and you'd like to be the one leading them, not him. We get you.
I know guys like Bernard Chapin are fighting against this, and I wish them good luck with this, and I hope they succeed.
I hope they don't, because all you're doing is pushing men returning to the plantation, staying on the plantation, and working for the government and working for women. That's all you're pushing, pal.
But this is the reality for the
You are a wolf in sheep's clothing, buddy.
good men that are going their own way.
Good men? You mean the ones that agree with you?
This is the reality you have to face. face. This jerk Barbarossa and his cult followers have hijacked the label.
He's just jealous.
The reason they're not men going their own way because, as I mentioned before, the entire structure of his little outing there is a little
cabal,
very cult-like. For example, Barbarossa himself is a hypocrite, as all cult gurus, because he encourages men to avoid relationships with women, claiming that women are inherently I don't think he uses the term evil, but he claims that women are inherently manipulative.
Yes.
That women are inherently trying to exploit men.
Yes.
If given a choice, women will always screw over men.
Yes.
Whether it comes in the form of feminism,
yes,
traditionalism, or tradcons, the Orwellian label they used to describe anyone who's to the right of Karl Marx. But Barbarossa himself has a girlfriend, from what I understand. So in the classic tradition of cult.
Okay. So let me get into this. So maybe he has a girlfriend. Yeah. Okay. So what? Is he married to her? Is she living with him? Now she's living with him. He's breaking the code. Now then I would say, okay, off with his head. But seriously, you need to show me some evidence. And by the way, what do you care? What do you care?
He doesn't even adhere to his own script. None of the permavirgins posting on these forums.
Permavirgins? How do you know that? You're just making this excuse me. You're just making this grand assumption based on nothing.
Or hanging off of his every word seem to recognize the inherent contradiction in the fact that their own self-appointed Swami isn't even following out the rules they set out for them. That's how all cults work. I mean, Bill Wilson, the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, was continuously relapsed throughout his life. He was
Alcoholics Anonymous is bad. Alcoholics Anonymous, studies have been done, and it's proven that it's exactly as effective as people who just give up alcohol without it. The numbers are 5% with and 5% without of all people. I mean, it's like it's in no way more effective than if somebody just decided one day, I'm gonna stop drinking. What's your point?
Smoker. Was it he or was it the other guy? No, it was Doctor. I think both of them died from emphysema because they smoked too much. And the case of Bill.
Your comparisons are wrong because MGTOW are not advocating getting rid of women entirely. We just advocate what they're good for. We know what they're good for, and we use them for what they're good for, and that's it. What's your point? Cigarettes are good for nothing. Neither is alcohol. Women are good for something, at least. In limited doses, of course.
Wilson, he positioned himself as a moral authority when he was 13th stepping, sleeping with every vulnerable young woman who came through the door at Alcoholics Anonymous.
So what? What was sleeping with every vulnerable young woman have to do with drinking? Oh, hey, man. I mean, you get a woman drunk, certainly makes it easier to bang her. What's your point, though? Huh?
Trying to get free of their alcohol addiction, he took advantage of them in a vulnerable state.
So what? What's your point?
Congratulations, Barbara. You're following in a grand tradition of self-appointed spiritual leaders.
Whoa, what are you talking about? Well, what does some guy that was an Alcoholics Anonymous who slept with female alcoholics who were vulnerable and attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings have to do with Barbarossa? Or anybody else that's not an alcoholic? What is this guy talking about? He's a simpleton. I'm sorry, pal, but you're a simpleton. You look like a simpleton. You talk like a simpleton. You're a simpleton. He can't even make an argument. He's just like about conflation, hyperbole. That's it. He just tries to shock people, and he makes these ridiculous comparisons that are in no way valid.
Number two, these men going their own way now have become de facto Marxists. As I mentioned before, one of the principles laid out in the original MGTOW manifesto was working towards limited government. Because the original guys who created this doctrine recognized that the source of men's problems is large government. The source of feminism's power is the government.
Yes. What's your point? You're a dummy. You're a dummy, pal. You want to know why you're a dummy? Because there is in no way that we are going to make government smaller. Because government is as big as it is because it has female voters. Female voters are the majority. Female voters are the ones that vote in the people in government, and they vote for larger government. Men do not have the power. Women have the power. So you're not going to get women to vote away their power. Who's going to get women to vote away their power? You? How? Educating them? How? They're already grown women. They're already fully cooked, and they go through the indoctrination system that is our public education system. You are naive. You are stupid. You don't know what you're talking about.
That is why feminism is an integral part of the left. You've got these ideological...
Right. It's a tool of the left. That is right. So you need to leave that tool that is essentially using itself as a tool to extract power from you in the form of resources and your tacit approval and you voting for what the woman votes for and for you giving the woman what she needs that she then gives to the government in the form of resources and gives the big business in the form of resources, and then you give up all your resources being married to her, and then again when you divorce her, as you have to now support 2 households through alimony and child support. Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about, pal.
Confused MRAs talking about there's no difference between left and right. It's all the same, man. It's all the same. Yet they can't name an example of men being screwed over by the right to the degree that they're screwed over by the left.
Right, and the left is feminism, but you're saying that we shouldn't have a problem with women? Or that we shouldn't educate other men on women's nature, or the fact that women's nature has been allowed to run amok because the government has given them too much power. But, stay with women. Stay with them. And ignore the fact that they have way too much power and are getting more and more and more by the day. Let's just continue to enable them to take more and more and more power. Let's just fight against the government while at the same time giving women the power to make the government even stronger so that any efforts that we have will fail. Plus the fact women are going to fight us too, and they will win because they have the vote. Gee, his logic makes no sense whatsoever.
The left who
I don't think he understands what the fuck he's talking about.
Policy, anti-male policies such as the Violence Against Women Act. It was the left who is redefining rape to mean anything that makes a woman uncomfortable. It was the left who imposed this welfare state that basically taxes men, productive men, to pay for single mothers and other unproductive women.
You sound just like me in your disagreements, so why are you not identifying as MGTOW? Oh, I see. You think it's just some movement that... No. He doesn't. It's not the ideology. It's the fact that he's not in charge of it. He wants to be the boss of it. His friends and his associates who used to be the boss and who he says, quote unquote, started the movement and wrote the manifesto have taken it over. Oh, poor you. That's what he's really angry about.
The government is the problem. This is tangentially related. This is part of the reason why the men's rights movement is so incoherent, because they're trying to hijack that government apparatus and redirect it towards men. They say, well, we have a national we've got women's studies in colleges, so we should have men's studies in too. We've got a national department for women's affairs. We should have a national department for men's affairs. It's an it's an approach that's never going to work.
Wait, what? This idiot, he was just talking about doing that. He was just talking about that's the only way, that attacking women is wrong. You need to go for the real power behind women, which is the government. This guy is totally incoherent. He's incoherent.
And even if the MRAs got their wish, what would happen is that the government bureaucracy would just end up ruining it. So the original MGTOW manifesto and the original Men Going Their Own Way recognized that the number one...
Which was what, 10, 11 years ago? You would have been like, what, 15? What are you talking about? You were never part of the start of this movement, ever.
Enemy of men's rights and men's freedom was the government. And the only way to increase the individual liberty of men was to decrease the size of government.
You just said that's impossible. You just said going after the government will not work. It's impossible. Now you're saying that's what we need to do. Hey, Guy, you don't know what you're talking about. You are totally out of your mind. You're all over the place.
The new Men Going Their Own Way are de facto Marxists because, number one... Why? They refuse to acknowledge that there's a qualitative difference between left and right. I wrote about this in Return to...
No, we don't. You're lying right there. That's just you lying. or you're way misinformed. No, the MGTOW I talk to, they are well informed about the left and the right. You are not. Now you're making false representations, okay, because you're just pissed off, because you're not part of that movement. You're not leading it. You think you should be some kind of leader. You think you're some kind of brilliant genius when you're anything but. And you think that it should be in the hands of you, and more importantly, your buddies who had the movement hijacked from them by us Cheeto-eating losers. Okay.
Kings recently, it's there's a certain meme in the manosphere or whatever it's called of men complaining about tradcons or traditional conservatives. A complete strawman, by the way. These people don't exist. They're a figment of the Marxist imagination.
Now you're saying you mean of the MGTOW imagination. Do you know what Marxist is? Do you know what Marxism is? It is actively using a belief in an oppressed and oppressor group and claiming to be the oppressed group so that you can be elevated to an equal position with your oppressor, but in all actuality, it ends up with you being superior to the oppressed person. MGTOW are not that.
Claiming that they're just as bad as feminists, just as bad as the left, which is complete horseshit.
Traditional conservatives for men. Now, you have men. I'm talking about men. Okay, traditional conservatives are bad for men. Okay.
And when you claim that there's no difference between left and right, that's all the same. You are opening yourself up to gradual Marxist subversion.
He's all over the place. This guy.
O'Sullivan's first law states that any organization or entity that is not inherently right-wing eventually becomes left-wing. That's how the media, that's how the newspapers, which were ostensibly a neutral organization, became the de facto left-wing. It's how, say, GQ became left-wing. GQ did that hit piece on A Voice for Men a few months ago. It's how all these institutions become left-wing, because leftists they never announce that they're leftists. They don't fight honestly. They don't fight with honor. They are subversive.
You mean like you?
Subversive, sneaky little cuttlefish, as
like you
might put it. They infiltrate organizations secretly.
Like you.
And corrode them from within.
You're trying to, You're corroding the men's movement from within, just from your own little corner of it. And then you're trying to corrode MGTOW from without. But you're trying to do it by claiming that you were the original MGTOW along with a couple other guys, even though you're 25, 26 years old. Now you'd be 27, but you were 25 when this was made. But somehow you are the original man. You were the original MGTOW at the age of 15, 14. Yeah, okay.
That left and right are just the same. You're being led off a cliff by a Pied Piper. These kids are so ignorant to assume
you're a kid.
That there's no difference between left and right, and also that government is the solution to their problems.
Those are leftists, not MGTOW. You're talking to the wrong people.
You've got guys who outright deny the existence of cultural Marxism. They claim that it's a conspiracy theory, 100 million dead as a result of Marxism in the 20th century alone. But, cultural Marxism is just a conspiracy theory. It was just invented by a bunch of crazy libertarian...
See, everything he's saying is what MGTOW say. This guy is just pissed that he's not in charge, or he thinks he should be in charge. People should be following him, not Barbarossa. Oh, that's... Dirty bastard has all those followers. He's so well liked, and nobody likes me. God damn it.
Ranks. So the new wave of men going their own way of failing to recognize that government is their enemy is
You just said before there's nothing you could do about it. Oh, we get these programs from men, that program from men. That's not going to help. We're helping men, getting the government to help men. Oh, the bureaucracy would just ruin it. That won't do anything. But now we have to get rid of government. You just said we're powerless to do that. And it's true, and even more so because women are the ones that vote. All power in government is based on voting. Government is what people want it to be, meaning the voters. And if the majority of voters are women and the majority of women vote for a specific type of government, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get that specific type of government. It's that simple, pal.
The biggest problem. Problem number two is that they recognize... And this sort of feeds into the previous point. They fail to recognize. They claim that feminism.
You fail to recognize quite a bit.
Our current state is just the expression of female nature.
Right. Yes, and that's all, Barbarossa, and that's all I'm talking about, and a lot of other MGTOW guys talk about. It's just human nature. We don't hate women. We're just informing people about their nature and to stay away from them. Not stay away from the government. Stay away from the government, tell me. But really, that's how the government is getting a lot of its power, okay? Women didn't have our resources, and if guys like you would wake up and also walk away from women, and all guys did, then women would have a big problem. And then they would vote to change things. You see what I'm saying there, buddy?
I've talked about this with Bernard Chapin. He would be the guy to go to see the best denunciations of these faux...
Oh, right, a friend of yours, one of your buddies, one of your compatriots, one of your compadres. Not that evil Barbarossa, not the evil MGTOW who hijacked the movement from you. Yes, they're so evil.
Men going their own way, these MGTOWs.
They're faux because they're doing exactly what even the name implies, while your supposed definition sounds like the faux one to me. Your definition has nothing about men going their own way. They would still stay with women, still marry women. How would things change, by the way? How would that change things? Just continuing the status quo that's already creating more and more problems and making things worse? That's essentially your definition of MGTOW is status quo.
I've got a few of his videos in the description if you want to check it out.
No. Pass.
I interviewed Bernard a few months back, and we've gotten to talking about...
You're all butt buddies. You're all interviewing each other and patting each other on the back and trying to endorse each other and advertise for each other. But, it's so hard when you don't have very many viewers and very many fans. Yeah. Damn that Barbarossa. Damn those faux MGTOW for stealing all your followers and all your subscribers. He's the false cult leader. I'm the real cult leader. Follow me.
Barbar and these fake MGTOWs. He said that, as he described it, Barbarossa rejected evolutionary psychology as it existed, but he spent 4 years conjuring his own evolutionary psychology out of whole cloth. And the belief of these men going their own way is that feminism is just a reflection of female nature.
Yes.
It comes forward in other fashions. Like, for example, traditionalism, chivalry, all that stuff is the result of female nature as well.
Yes.
And that the only way for men to fight this apparently is to just drop.
Well, in part, I mean, it sort of incentivizes or that kind of behavior and such. But that's men's fault as well.
Drop out. Sit on your computer all day playing video games and going to MGTOW forums, bragging about how we're going to deprive those bitches of penis. That'll sure show them.
Wow, you got it so wrong, don't you? But of course, he knows he's got it wrong. He's just trying to portray MGTOW guys as in the worst way possible. Oh no, I don't deprive women of penis. Certainly not my penis. I love giving it to women. That's it though. I'm a free giver. I'll give the penis if I like her. If I think she's hot, no problem. What we're depriving them of are resources, buddy. Money, support, a way to steal our shit legally. But you want to misrepresent us because you're the real MGTOW. Yeah, okay, you're the real guy. Okay, gotcha.
That'll show them what for. That is very literally Marxist in the traditional definition of the word.
What? Depriving women of penis, which I don't do, by the way, and most MGTOW don't, is Marxist? What the fuck is he talking about? I got to hear this.
There's a good book I recommend called...
Wait. He didn't give it. Oh, this guy. All he does is he makes these criticisms without providing argument. Arguments are wise. Arguments support your claim. So he's made a claim. He hasn't given an argument. Now that's cultural Marxism, buddy.
Stephen Golding, I think it's called it's been so long since I read. It's called The Inevitability of Patriarchy. In the book argues, the book deconstructs the feminist notion of Marxism as applied to gender relations. Feminists claim that men and women are separate classes in the Marxist sense, and men inherently exploit women.
Well, that's not true, but they are separate. I mean, they're different. What's your point, fatty?
Much in the same way that capitalists exploited workers.
But that's cultural Marxism.
The problem with this analysis is that as the book points out.
That's the definition of cultural Marxism anyway. Continue.
Marx's original theory, you cannot have an economic class that is dependent on the other class for existence. Marx argued, the Communist Manifesto argued that...
Well, you like to use that word manifesto, don't you? I bet you know a lot about communism, because you are a communist.
The workers did not need the bourgeoisie. The workers did not need the capitalists. That was the whole point. The workers were supposed to overthrow the capitalists and take control of the means of production themselves.
Right, and what ended up happening was the state actually took over, and then everybody became a loser. What fun!
This completely blows apart feminism as it exists, because men and women are dependent upon each other for survival.
We all know Marxism is bullshit, all right? You telling us that men and women are dependent upon each other for survival. No, we are not. Babies are dependent on men and women getting together and fucking and having them so that the race continues, but men and women are in no way dependent upon the other. You can go your own way. We don't need each other.
I'm not saying this in some, collectivist fashion.
What are you saying? You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. You're all over the place. You haven't made one cogent argument yet. You're hopping from bullshit to bullshit without making any points. And you're talking about unrelated stuff, and then you're talking about stuff that's, this is related to that, but it's in no way related. I can't follow this fucking guy.
The biological fact. For the human...
I don't know if I can make it to the end of this video. You're probably thinking the same thing.
Species to continue to exist, men and women have to procreate.
Oh, there we go. So that's the point. Well, that's not what you just said. You said that men and women need each other. Wrong. Now you're saying men and women need each other to procreate. That's right. But saying that men and women need each other, that's it. No, they don't. Absolutely not. I can cook my own food and make my own sandwich. I don't need a woman to do that.
Then in order to procreate, they have to get together and form relationships. That doesn't...
Wrong. You are wrong. No, they don't need to get together and have relationships. They can just bang and have a kid. Or a guy can get a surrogate. Or he can adopt a kid. Wrong. Now, of course, somebody had to get together to have those kids, but they didn't have to be married either. These are all specious assumptions you're making. They're all false.
I mean, every man has to form a relationship with a woman. It doesn't mean you have to form a relationship with a woman you aren't attracted to or can't stand around or who happens to be a complete bitch.
No, but you have to form a relationship with someone because you're a traditional conservative or you're pretending to be one anyway, but you're really a Marxist.
But it means that inherently men and women cannot get along without each other.
That's not true. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Dude, in what sense? Please explain that claim with an argument. Please explain what you mean by getting along and why they can't get along without the other. Will he explain it? Of course not.
What these new men going their own way...
Oh, yeah, as opposed to you who was an old one, even though you're 25. You're 25 years old when you made this video. 25, this is 2015, now it's 2017. You are 27 years old. You were born in 1990? You're one of the old ones? Get the fuck out of here, boy.
They've taken the feminist Marxist view of the world, but they flipped it on its head.
You've given no evidence of that. You've given no arguments to support that. You've just compared them without giving an argument as to why this is true about MGTOW. So, yeah, you have no point at all.
Instead of women being oppressed by men, it's men being oppressed by women. You know.
Well, yeah, he's just stupid. He's stupid. Do you understand, pal, that oppression is a real thing sometimes? Are you saying that all oppression is bullshit? Let's look at women, okay, and feminism. Women were never oppressed. They had to stay at home because they gave the baby the breast milk and then they raised the kids. But let's look at things objectively. Their lives were objectively much easier than a man's, okay? They were not oppressed. Or if they were oppressed, it was equal forms of oppression. He oppressed her by needing her to serve him, and if that's how you want to define oppression, and she oppressed him by needing him to serve her. If it was anything, it was a mutual form of a parasitical survival, while now it's just essentially women. They've left the plantation. They have abandoned their roles in the relationship, their traditional roles, and they are in no way indebted to men now. They are in no way serving men, but women are encouraged and castigated if they don't stick to their roles as men in the relationship, and yet he's sitting here saying that, oh, no, there's no oppression. There is if one of the people opts out first, which is women, and for the past 60 years, men have been adhering to their traditional roles and not opting out, so they're not getting anything in return, so it's not equal oppression, so one person is being oppressed, you doofus.
Well, women are oppressing men, making them work long hours and jobs to provide for children.
Right. And the woman's giving nothing because she's not there because she left to be with the hot bad boy stud, or she just left him, and he's getting alimony for past use of. How do you argue for that? Now you're saying that MGTOW is wrong. Wait a second, you moron, you. So now you are, again, now you're not only making sense, but you are contradicting your own argument by saying that MGTOW isn't even valid because there's no oppression of men going on. Because now MGTOW are being the cultural Marxists. Do you understand that just saying that you're oppressed doesn't make you a cultural Marxist? Are you out of your mind? What's going on in that tiny little Neanderthal head of yours, pal?
Making them go for these courtship rituals, blah, blah, blah. Again, it's completely false. And is an inherently collectivist way of looking at the world.
Oh, my God. Can this guy be any dumber? Hey, pal. You want to try and get men to join a collective? It's like herding cats. Have you looked at these MGTOW forums? Have you talked and listened to the comments? We agree on certain things, but that's it. And if something's true, then a majority of people will agree with it if they're not indoctrinated like you. And the fact that men are an oppressed class now is an actual reality. Women were not an oppressed class. I made a video on this, in fact. Why women can't leave the plantation, why women are allowed to leave the plantation and men can't. I suggest you watch it, Baldy, because I think you'd like it a whole lot. It might teach you something because you don't know very much as of now.
It's a short gap from viewing men and women as adversarial enemies to claiming that we need some all-powerful arbiter in between to level the playing field. You mean you? Except you're not that arbiter anymore. And you're pissed about it. Of course, you never were, actually. But you wanted to be, and you thought that you would inherit that, and now you can't. You can't even get any followers, and people won't watch you, and you're really not popular. Oh, how it must be so horrible to be you, you envy monster, you. Which is why feminism is an integral part of the left, and why all these new men going their own way have become de facto leftists. That's the problem.
Well, you're wrong, because your premise implies that there is no oppression against men, and if there is oppression against men, then you are wrong. And guess what? There is oppression against men, so you are wrong. The problem with things now, with feminism, there is no oppression against women. In fact, this system is leaning way toward them, like 80-20 for women. So, yeah, you're wrong. Men are oppressed, women are not.
And number 3, the problem is they...
And by the way, they were never oppressed to begin with in any unequal way. You're leaving out the integral part of men also being oppressed. Women had to stay home, and take care of the babies, and men had to go out and work themselves to death.
And again, much like feminists, men going their own way seem to regard masculinity and femininity more or less as constructs. They don't seem to recognize that there is an inherent character to men. There's an inherent character to women. It doesn't mean that all men and all women have to be exactly the same or have to live the exact same life.
Right. And it's perfectly okay for a man to be feminine and a woman to be somewhat masculine. Yeah, this is that relativism that you get from leftists.
It means that there's a difference. It's sexual dimorphism. This is why they get so upset at...
Wait. You just said there's differences, which is what we say. Why are you saying we get upset because we acknowledge sexual dimorphism? What are you talking about?
Purported shaming language. And you can't shame me. You can't tell me what to do.
Shaming language? You mean like the language that you've been using in this? You calling people perma-virgins and stuff like that. You mean that kind of language?
I want to sit in my basement and jack off all day. I can do that. You can't shame me into manning up.
Aren't you just using shaming language right now? This guy doesn't understand irony. He's shaming people who he says are trying to shame him. It's hilarious.
And no one's disputing that you can do whatever you want. You know, it's your life. I don't give a shit
if you didn't give a shit, you wouldn't be making this video.
If a loser McVirgin boy decides to sit.
Well, I thought shaming language was bad. You see, this is the problem. He's been shamed a lot. He's had people attack him, so now he's trying to attack them back. That's all it is.
Spend the rest of his natural-born life in a dank, dark basement watching porn and.
What is it with this dank, dark basement? Where did this come from? Do people even live in basements? Isn't that dangerous? Isn't there like lots of moisture and humidity and fucking mold and shit in a basement? Wouldn't you like fucking die from like some kind of nasty illness or something? You lived in a basement? What's he talking about? Dungeon dwellers? Who dwells in a dungeon? What?
Shooting a spooge all over the computer.
This sounds like a personal rendition this guy's giving.
The keyboard. I don't care. See, that's the MGTOWs. That's another unfortunate similarity they have with feminists. They assume that everyone who criticizes them is trying to get them to change. Gives a shit about them. The feminists are always like, you can't force me to go back into the kitchen. If I want to get a tattoo, I can do whatever I want. You can't make me do anything I don't want to do. And it's like, I don't care what you do. I don't give a shit. You live your life.
If you didn't care, you wouldn't be yammering on and on.
That's your life. Do whatever you please. But you cannot escape the consequences of your choices, and you cannot escape criticism for your choices.
What's your point? That you have a right to sit here and criticize people who share many of the same views you do, but you're misrepresenting them so as to get revenge for them being successful and you not being successful. Now, and by the way, that's Marxism, because all Marxism is a bunch of losers who envy people who did better than them, so they call them oppressors.
A woman who sleeps around, gets tattoos, is not going to be as attractive to a woman who is chaste and doesn't have any tattoos. If you make choices, you have to live with the consequences of those choices.
What's your point? You're just stating obvious facts that have no relation to anything you've been talking about.
And the MGTOWs, if you want to, sit on your computer all day whining about how you can't get a date, go right ahead. No.
I don't think MGTOWs are whining about that. I don't think MGTOWs are whining at all. I talk about issues and subjects that are directly in correlation with the problems men have with the way the system is set up now. And the best way to fix things is to go your own way and deprive women of the resources that enable them to indulge in their petty, vindictive nature so that eventually they can't indulge anymore, and then things will change.
Nobody cares. I do not care what
you. Somebody who doesn't care. You say an awful lot that I don't care. I don't care. By the way, I do care. It's sad that you do not.
You choose to do with your life, but you are not immune to criticism from me or anyone else.
And you are not immune to criticism from me. So don't be a hypocrite and complain about this video because you just said that I have every right to criticize you and you are not immune from it. But of course, no doubt he will complain. Who knows? People like this are usually hypocrites, and he sure sounds like a hypocrite to me.
You're free to do what you like, and I'm free to mock your life choices.
And I'm free to mock the nonsense that you portrayed in this video as some kind of logic or reason. It's nowhere near logical or reasonable what you've said. A lot of conflations, a lot of contradictions, a lot of logical fallacies, a lot of nonsense.
I'm free to accuse you of being unmanly for giving up on life.
Who's giving up on life? You see, again, he's misrepresenting things here just so he can attack people. He's trying to create a valid, legitimate reason to attack MGTOW guys by misrepresenting us.
You cannot have one without the others. These new generation of men going their way, they want to...
New generation, son. I could be your daddy. I would be ashamed to be your daddy, but I could be your daddy. New generation. I'm the one calling you new generation, and you don't have a clue.
Be able to pass judgment on everyone else. They want to pass judgment on evil sluts, evil women, evil PUAs. Yeah.
Oh, now you say, you're no PUA, buddy. Come on, let's be honest here. You're not walking into bars and hooking up with hot chicks and picking up chicks. And now that book you wrote about picking up fat women, that I would believe.
Yeah, that's another aspect of cult thinking. They put everything into like convenient little boxes.
Cult thinking? MGTOW cult thinkers? Jesus Christ, they all have different ideas of what MGTOW is at some level in forms of extremes. One, it's giving up women entirely. Another, okay, you don't have to give up women entirely, but you have to do this, that, this. There are just a few core things they agree with, and that's it. Cultists, they couldn't be any different from cultists if you tried to make them more different.
You can dismiss it. Like in this case, anyone who criticizes men going their own way is a
Like you?
PUA.
Well, dude, you try to present yourself as that. And by the way, I have nothing wrong with that. You can pick up women and still be MGTOW. Yeah, you really don't understand MGTOW. How could this guy, who's trying to present himself as one of the progenitors of MGTOW, even though at this point he's 25, he said at this point he was 10 years old, so he started MGTOW with these real masculine buddies of his at the age of 15. Ooh, yeah, these older guys now that he's trying to pimp for and get people to go to their channels and buy their shit, but nobody is because they've swallowed the wrong pill and accepted the wrong MGTOW. We're the real MGTOW. You're not the real MGTOW. Yeah, the no true Scotsman fallacy. Nice try there, buddy.
I'm a PUA, even though I've never identified as one. I don't write about it. It's not something that concerns me.
Yeah, you just write about picking up fat women. I see.
But anyway, men going their own way want to be able to pass judgment on everyone else.
Isn't that what you've been doing this whole video? Isn't that what you've been? And by the way, we don't pass judgment on everybody else. Just on the actions of certain women's actions and parts of their nature and of the system itself and why we should avoid them. That's not everyone, is it? But you think it's everyone. Okay.
Yet be immune from judgment.
No, I'm not immune. Go ahead, judge me. Then I'll mock you back and I'll pick your arguments apart and make you look like a fool. Oh, wait, you're doing a good enough job of that on your own.
It doesn't work like that. So long as you...
Just remember that when you see this video, it doesn't work like that for you either.
Exist on this planet, as long as you draw a breath, you are going to be judged.
Bingo!
For your life choices, and you have to learn to deal with it like a if not like a man, you need to learn how to deal with it. Period. That's why whenever.
Just remember that when you see this video, deal with it like a man and suck it up, cupcake.
I criticize men going their own way. They always get in a little tizzy. It's like,
I think you get in the tizzy because they've criticized you far more and you feel put upon and you're attacking back. That's all you're doing with these misrepresentations.
40, just a PUA. Yeah, 40's trying to shame us. It's like, if you can't.
Well, dude, you are using a lot of shaming language, so that's a pretty accurate assessment. Very accurate assessment.
If you can't take the heat, get out of the nuclear reactor.
Oh, you're a nuclear reactor. This guy's ego. Talk about insecure. I mean, you're overcompensating to the umpteenth degree, buddy.
Finally, I want to make one final point.
You made 0 points. You don't know how to make a point. You are one of the worst arguer, debaters, point makers I've ever seen. You don't even know what a point is.
I touched on this before with a little cult-like attitude surrounding Barbar. None of these men going their own way seem to realize the inherent contradiction of doing the exact same thing a bunch of other men are doing, which is sitting on the computer, on their little forums.
You're misrepresenting. You're just misrepresenting people. You're identifying people. You talk about this. You are a leftist because you identify other people as groups. You don't identify them as individuals. It's very convenient for you. You can paint everybody with the same brush. It's nothing more than identity politics. You are a leftist. Nothing more.
Talking about how women suck and talking.
I don't think. Well, women do suck, but they're not in that sense. Okay. Depending on the woman, she can suck good or she can suck bad. But I don't think women suck. Again, same brush, buddy. Big mistake to do that.
How they've dropped out of society and how any man who wants to exercise his normal sexual urges and have sex with women or possibly have a relationship with them is a fucking loser.
Dude, if you can get a woman to sleep with you, by all means, you should. Even if she is a fatty, go for it. You have my permission and you will not get any criticisms from me. I'm not that type of MGTOW.
Point. I mean,
but because we're not all the same, but you're painting us with the same brush. Okay.
The entity is called men going their own way.
It is not an entity, baldy.
By definition, it's going to be different for every man. You know, it's like Bernard.
What? He calls it an entity, and then he says it's going to be different for every man. Please, somebody Tell this guy the difference between individuality and collectivism. He doesn't seem to know. You can't brand a group as all one thing and then say they're all different. Oh, my God, he's so stupid.
Chapin says, you know, of course I'm going my own way. Well, whose other way would I be going? Yet, these MGTOWs always go out of their way to shame, ironically, considering they always whine about shaming language, to shame and attack and berate any man who legitimately is going his own way. I mean,
oh, like you. Yeah, you're the original MGTOW. You are the man.
I did a podcast with the Beckloff yesterday. He brought...
These are nobodies. These are nobodies who are on the fringes trying to get attention, and they're pissed off they're not getting the kind of attention there, so they're lashing out at people like Barbarossa and other MGTOW content producers because they're not getting the attention they want. We're not getting the attention we should be getting, but we're the real thing. No true Scotsman fallacy, Baldy.
Up a very good point. All of these men going their own way, they absolutely hate Aaron Clarey. Now, if any man is going his own way, Aaron Clarey definitely is.
I don't even know who he is. I'm sure you would like to think I do, but who the fuck is that? Nobody knows who you are either. They will now because of my channel, but before that, not too many, I'm sure. And that's why you're pissed.
Quit his job as a banker. He's living entirely off his books and off of asphalt consulting. He rides motorcycles whenever he wants. He goes on road trips.
Oh, he's a real man. He's a biker.
He goes mountain hiking. He engages in his interests. He's living what should be the men going their own way ideal.
Good for him. So what?
Yet these men absolutely despise him. They despise me.
I don't know who he is, and I didn't know who you were until I saw this fucking thing. You really got some ego on you to think that you're that popular or important to anybody.
They despise Arini. They despise Bernard Chapin. They despise men who legitimately are living the lives they want to live.
So you're implying we are not. Yeah, okay, you're the real deal. All right, no true Scotsman there. Okay, buddy.
That they want to live, who aren't enslaved to a 9-to-5 job or are stuck in a relationship with a demanding bitch and like two little shitlets out there in the corner.
But you just said that's what we want. That's natural. That's what men should be doing. Now you're saying it's not. This guy's all over the place. He has no set belief system whatsoever. Relativism everywhere. He's the perfect leftist.
You cannot call yourself a man going your own way and claim that you support freedom for men when you shame men for taking choices that you don't want to take.
Bingo! You just did that for every guy calling himself MGTOW that doesn't agree with you.
And we're not talking like, again, all the men in this part of the internet are living life the way they want to. They've made their life choices they want to make. And if you are running around trying to claim that any man that has relationships with women is a pussy worshiper or whatever.
No, you're talking about a very, very select few. I've received very few comments like that. I think you're just more like a woman. Was your mommy a single mommy? Were you raised by a single mommy? Is that the problem, that you're so very sensitive like a woman? You don't believe how many comments I've gotten just like that, negative comments. You know what I do with these negative comments? I make jokes about them, and essentially, but I make jokes about their logic and the fact that they don't know what they're talking about, because they really don't know what they're talking about, but it's very few people. And by the way, I ignore the majority of them. You seem to let this stuff really, really get to you, pal. You should grow a thicker skin, okay?
You are in violation of the spirit of men going their own way.
Oh, but you're not a MGTOW. But you're the original MGTOW. I see.
As I mentioned before, the manifesto didn't mention anything about relationships with women. It didn't mention a marriage strike. It didn't mention not getting married, not having a relationship. It didn't mention anything. It was just instill masculinity in men, femininity.
Right. It was a little too broad and not focused enough. So the people who preceded made it more focused. See, it changed with the times and to suit the needs of the people in it. It grew and became something more, something better. What you're clinging to doesn't exist anymore. That's right, and it shouldn't. It's called evolution. Ideas exist. Ideas evolve as well as people evolve. You're just pissed that you didn't get on the ground floor. And, of course, instead of actually red-pilling yourself for real, you're just pissed off that people, they were doing, and now they're shaming me, and so, I'm not going to join the club. I'm going to attack the club, and I'm going to make people join my club. Oh, that cult, bad cult. You should join my cult. My cult's the good cult. Yeah.
In women and work towards limited government. So that's my thoughts on men going.
Oh, yeah, although big government is no way going to be changed with women who have all the power, also getting all the resources and money they need from men. They're getting their cake and they're eating it too. You take away their cake, well, you might change things. But as long as they have the vote, you're not going to shrink government through any other means. And you admitted that yourself as you contradicted yourself time and time and time again.
Wrong way. It's a great idea.
Yes,
and
it
I
is.
hope that the good men going their way can.
Oh, the good ones. You mean the ones that agree with you? Okay.
Can win their battle against the cultists. The ones.
What cultists are you talking about, man? Going their own way like cats? You can't herd cats. You're the sheep, buddy. You're the leftist. You're so indoctrinated that you don't see the illogic, and every other breath you make, you're contradicting yourself, like the typical leftist. You are the typical Marxist, my friend.
Who just want to jerk off and talk about.
Jerking off can be a good thing, but I don't think most MGTOW do it like a lot, okay?
Great big government is all day. But anyway, as part of the 30 days of 30 videos in 30 days challenge, I encourage you to ask me your questions in the comments below. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Il Gemino non carborundum. Don't let the bastards grind you down. I'm Matt Forney, and I am out.
Thank God, and I hope you stay out. Oh, my God. You jelly, bro. Look at that picture. Oh, my God. And look at this. Jesus Christ. I think he's got some, might need a male support for the upper chest of this guy. So, let's look at some of the comments for this article. Oh, yeah, wow. Isn't he just such a great-looking guy? Look at that svelte body. Ooh, he's a pickup artist, all right. Yeah. Good Lord. So I hope you enjoyed that video of a Matt Forney who identifies himself as a pickup artist of fat women extraordinaire, masterful pie eater, and T-shirt wearing hot dude PUA picking up in ladies man. Yeah, you go, boy. I am the MGTOW philosopher, and I wish you a good day. Take care.